But not however. Someone had to write to New York and Philadelphia to spread the news, and Paul picked to do it. So off he got his hat, capped his head, his coat, his flying from Boston to Cambridge, Watertown, Dorchester, to Hartford, watch out, dogs on the road, watch out chickens, to New York, to Philadelphia, and went and back 60 miles a day. This was not swanton flies. He was back in Boston on the Deadman Day, long before anyone expected him. Paul became Massachusetts #1 express rider between Boston and Philadelphia. He also became a secret agent. In the winter of 1774, it looked more and more as if English soldiers in Boston meant to make war on America, and Paul's job was to try to find out the English plans. He was far too busy now to write in his day book. He was too busy to make many silver tea pots or to whittle many teeth. Instead, he patrolled the streets at night, delivered messages to Philadelphia, and kept himself ready all the time to warn the countryside. Sometimes on seasons, things went just right. He got past the sentries, got through the snow, kept his horse on the road, and kept himself on his horse. Sometimes things went poorly. Once the English found him in a rowboat snooping around Castle Island to Boston Harbor. So they stopped him, questioned him, and locked him up. And he stayed up for 3 nights. But all his right, Paul knew they were small compared to the big red fat right lay ahead. Nothing should go wrong with this one. In the spring, everyone agreed. The English would march into the countryside, ready to start fighting, and when they did, Paul River would have to be ahead of them. On Saturday, April 15, spring, it seems, had arrived. Boats from moon troops had been seen on the Charles River. English scouts had been observed on both to Lexington and Concord. A saber board had overheard 2 officers making plans, and I remember, Paul River went from different cities.
It sounds also like he was in the war, right?
Yes. So, I remember. He was too busy to write in his daybook.
You ready?
Yeah.
At about 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, April 18, Dr. Joseph Warren, who was Director of Pirate Activities in Boston, sent for Paul. Other messengers had been dispatched from Lexington and Concord by longer routes. Paul was to go, as planned, the same way the English were going across the Charles River. He was to alarm the citizens so they could arm themselves. And he was to inform John Hancock and Samuel Adams, Boston's 2 Patriot leaders who were staying in Lexington, and Paul was to leave now. He had already arranged a quick way of warning the people of Charlestown across the river. 2 lanterns were to be hung in the steep of the North Church if the English were coming by water, 1 lantern if they were coming by land. So Paul asked a friend to rush to the North Church. 2 lanterns, he told them, now. Then they ran home, flung open the door, pulled out his boots, grabbed his coat, kissed his wife, told the children to be good, and off he went. His hat clapped onto his head, his coattails flying. He was such in a hurry that he left the door open and his dog got out. On the way to the river, Paul picked up two friends who promised the row to the other side. Then all three ran at the dock near the Charlestown ferry where Paul had kept a boat hidden during the winter. Paul's dog ran with them. The night was pleasant and the moon was too bright. In the patch of moonlight across the river lay an armed English transport. Paul and his friends would have to row past it. Then Paul realized his first mistake. He had meant to bring cloth to wrap around the oars so the sound would be muffled. He had left the cloth at home. That wasn't all he had left behind. Paul had started out from his big ride without his purse. What could be done?
So I can think about this.
He sent a message, right?
Yeah.
With two lanterns?
Yeah.
And two lanterns had a meaning. What was the meaning?
Of having a meaning. Oh, I'm just taking a look hunt in the steeple of Northern Church of if English were coming by water. No. The one answer is they are coming me by hand.
Two lanterns were to be hung in the steep of the North Church if the English were coming by water. So he was warning them with two lanterns that they were going to come by water, right?
Yes.
What did one lantern mean?
One lantern means if they were coming by hand.
By land, yes.
Yes.
Okay, your turn.
Okay, here it goes. Luckily, one of Paul's friends knew a lady who lived nearby. He ran to her house, called at her window, and asked for a give some coffee. This lady was not a time marshal. She stepped out of the brown petticoat she was wearing and threw it out the window. Before the spurs, luckily Paul's dog was there, and luckily he was well trained. Paul wrote a note to his wife, tied it around the dog's neck, and told the dog to go home. By the time Paul and his friends had wrapped the pickle into two wraps, each had around an oar, not for both the dog was tied to Paul's perch around his neck. Paul and his two friends rowed off across the Charles River. They slipped carefully past the English transport with its 84 guns, and they landed in the shells on the other side. Safely, there a group of men from Charleston was seeing the signal in the church steeple had a horse waiting for Paul.
So what do you think happened?
I think, yeah, I remember Paul rowed slowly across the Charles River. I remember a group of men had seen Charles steeple.
And then he sent his dog back home, right?
Yes.
Why is she crying?
Because she needs to get back home because of breaking. Your turn.
And off Paul rode on his big ride. He kept his horse on the road and himself on his horse. And all went well until suddenly he saw two men on a horseback under a tree. There were There were English officers. One officer sprang out and tried to get ahead of Paul. The other tried to overtake him from behind, but Paul turned his horse quickly and galloped across country, past a muddy pond, toward another road to Liston. And what happened to the officers? One of them galloped straight into the mud and got stuck. The other gave up the chase. Paul continued Langston, beating on the doors. He went arousing the citizens. In Langston, he woke up John Hancock and Samuel Adams and advised them to leave town. He had a quick bite to eat, and then in the company of 2 other riders, he continued Concord, warning farmers along the way. So what did he do?
Paul kept his horse on the road himself.
And he got rid of the 2 officers, right?
Yes. For a while, all went well, and then suddenly from out the shore appeared 6 English officers, 2 of them with their pistols in their hands, and ordered Paul to stop. Paul didn't stop immediately. "Stop!" one of the officers shouted. "If you go an inch further, you are a dead man." Paul and his companions tried to ride forward the group, but they rushed around the order into a pasture and one side of the road. Near the pasture, 6 other officers appeared with pistols in their hands. One of them spoke like a gentleman. He took Paul's horse by the reins and asked Paul where he came from. Paul told him Boston. The officer asked what time he had left Boston. Paul told him. The officer said, "Sir, he had created one name, process that his name was River." "What? Paul River?" Paul said, "Yes."
So what did you get from there?
So I have explained Paul will ride through the group.
What else happened?
I remember Paul left Boston.
The officer was shocked that his name was Paul, right?
Yes, I got it.
Paul River.
So I think carbon waves. Excuse me. I'm going to see how all this. We're almost done. No worries.
Okay. Now the English officers certainly did not want to let Paul loose, so they put him along with other prisoners at the center of their group, and they rode off toward Langston. As they approached